Let's start with the big e-commerce questions that everybody always asks when it comes to curbside pickup or delivery and e-com. Basically, what should I sell and what should I charge for what I'm selling? And then there's this question. I have 1,000 SKUs. Do I need to put them all online? And if I do, how on earth do I manage that? You've got to remember your vision. I can't tell you a one-size-fits-all answer, unfortunately. There are several factors. You're going to just need to remember your vision and be realistic about the resources you're working with. And then ask yourself again, why are you doing e-com? To offer convenience to your customers, to get rid of inventory, to reach new customers, or expand your audience, or let people shop before they shop or plan their trip. It really does make a difference who you're selling to when you decide what you're going to offer. Look around and see where people live who are shopping from you. Are there people living in apartments and patio homes? If so, then you're going to be wanting to sell kits and container gardens, including container gardens with edibles and houseplants, those kind of things. And if you're offering those items but they're not selling, you have a marketing opportunity. Let's look at it positively. If you're surrounded by land barons, then you're going to want to think about offering bulk, things like furniture, patio furniture, bigger plant material, and even gravel. Yes, gravel. So now we're going to hear from our first guest contributor, and this is Matt from Suburban Lawn and Garden in Kansas City, and he's going to tell us about gravel and e-commerce. Oh, and by the way, Matt and Suburban have 12x'd their e-com revenue in the last year. So he's an excellent source to listen to.
Right. But our number one searched for item and number one purchased item department is rock.
Wow.
Landscaping rock. There's
so
nobody else who does it. And I
Mhm.
can't believe people are willing to buy 3,000 pounds of landscape rock and have it delivered with one. You can look at our pictures. They're not bad pictures, but I mean, there's so many questions to answer. So many, you know, we just kind of put some stuff up there just to try and again entice people to come to the store, not really thinking, well, that would be an item that people would want to buy and have delivered or pick up,
All right, so gravel, really? Yes. Think about what you can offer to sell online that nobody else around you does. That makes things more convenient for customers and they will love you for it. Okay, it's incredibly expensive to fulfill e-commerce orders. Maybe you've already experienced this. You're going to want to think about setting a minimum price for the items that you offer on your website, or a minimum basket value or shopping cart value for e-com orders. Like you can only do e-com for orders over $25. So here is Sam Kirkland from Epicor, who is going to talk to us about how you make those calculations.
My strategy on that would be to sell the higher. I would set a price point of $9.99 or $10 or $20, and set a price point that's a little bit higher, because you don't want to be selling a 4-pack of tomatoes, right, for $1.99. You'll be so upside down on margin. So either that or pick a minimum basket. Like you have to spend a minimum, and I go $50. It doesn't have, 25. Is that worth your labor hour to sell a $25? Because if I'm at 14 or, I'm at 20, I'll throw a couple little things in it at a 20% margin item. And the time somebody picks it, I'm just upside down. So make it worth the business's labor cost to participate in this, and make the consumer push it. I don't think there'd be much pushback from that. So one, it's either two things. I would seriously consider a minimum basket level, and number two, don't sell a bunch of items that don't have a price point at a certain level. I think $10 and above would be where I would go. And there might be certain instances that you can go lower on that. Two, I would pick I would focus on the highest margin items. I wouldn't be selling a 15% item on e-commerce. Again, you're going to get, backwards on, you'll end up losing money because I can't sit here and have the labor cost of an e-commerce on a 20% margin item. It doesn't make sense.
Thanks, Sam. Here's another example. My favorite pencil store in all the land, they, yes, only sold pencils, CW Pencil Enterprise, is revamping their store, including their e-commerce store, in the wake of COVID, because they figured out that their in-person location was highly reliant on tourists in New York City, and there are no tourists in New York City right now, and they sold $1 pencils online, in addition to plenty of other things. Trust me, I've gotten in lots of trouble on their website. But they would let you buy $1 pencil, and then they would fulfill that order, ship it to you. So they were underwater. So now they are revamping how they're merchandising. They're selling pencils in sampler packs, or you can buy a whole box of the same kind of pencil. And if CW Pencils can do it, so can we. So when we offer e-commerce as an option, we're not only selling products, we are selling services, or at least we're offering the services, so we need to charge for them. We're selling the services of doing the shopping and bundling and fulfilling for the customer instead of the customer having to come in. So here is Sam from AmericanHort again explaining some more about why that's important when you decide what to sell and how much to charge for it.
If you do, I think these are seriously things that people should consider, raising that price by 5 or 10%. I don't think we understand the ceiling right now in this industry. I think we haven't hit it. So I think you kind of push that with e-commerce a little bit and just see what happens. Easily changed, right? If I'm selling this for, $14 in the store, it's $17.99 online. So cover the cost of labor, cover the cost that it's going to take you to do that while still maintaining. It's a convenience factor. We have learned people pay convenience factors. Instacart, I pay 2-3-5% extra to have that done for me on the top. So people are used to that. It's not the education. We don't have to educate our consumers anymore. They have been educated for us.
Thanks, Sam. That's such an important point. Our customers have been educated for us, and so it's up to us to seize the opportunity and really commit to providing a wonderful e-commerce experience if we're going to bother to do it. So if there's one thing I could encourage you to do, it is to reserve inventory for your e-commerce. Remember, your e-commerce store is like a second location or third or fourth location. And just like you manage inventory for 2 separate locations separately, you really should consider managing inventory for e-commerce separately. Again, we keep talking about this, but labor costs to fulfill e-commerce orders are very high. If you reserve inventory and you keep it in its own area, then those labor costs go down because people aren't running all over creation to fulfill orders. Also, costs go down in terms of counting, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I'm going to talk about it now, looking at my notes. Reserved inventory makes counting what's available and reconciling what you have on hand with what is in the store easier, because you don't have to count every single thing you have. If you have reserved inventory, you just have to count the inventory. But another reason to manage inventory separately is customer experience. So one thing is marketing. So you can offer online exclusives, and people eat that up like catnip. I almost swore there. I have a kind of a potty mouth. I did not swear. Good job, Katie. It's also because you want to deliver on the promise of marketing. Let's say you send an email out saying you have all this stuff and it's online only or it's available. If you sell something, you want it to be available when you pick it and when the customer comes to get it. Because if it's not and you have to call them about a substitution or tell them it's not there, they're going to be aggravated, and it's going to hurt your opportunity to sell to them like that again. But you don't just have to listen to me beating the dead horse about reserving inventory. Here's Sam again talking about Matt and Suburban and how they do it.
Matt at Suburban, he sets inventory aside in the location, in his location. So he'll take, 30 plants and it's an interesting strategy, and I like it. He also has the staff to do it. So if this is a small store without the staff, it could be difficult. But he actually takes inventory and puts it in a different area, and that's his e-commerce barn or outside area or whatever it is. So the inventory is a little segmented out from the population, so they can't go get it. And it's easily managed by him because it's it's integrated, and he knows what's going on, and he can move stuff back and forth pretty quickly. So that's another strategy that if you have the manpower to do it, and if your website is driving enough revenue to support that, I think taking an area, and this is our e-commerce inventory, and it's pretty well maintained there. Dirt, some of those things you might not, because you get pallets of that, but plant material that might be limited, that because the fear always is, if I have 20 SKU, 20 quantity on hand, the possibility is always there of a consumer coming in and buying all 20. So Matt's vision is, I'm going to remove that from happening. If I need to take some out of my protected area, I reduce my quantity on hand on the website. So he manages to keep a very accurate inventory online through just positioning off a section of the business that's my e-com inventory.
Okay, just promise me you'll think about reserving inventory, okay? All right, now it is time for our Q&A, so I'm going to see you live, and let's get to some questions. Okay, now that we've established what you're going to sell, or at least the questions that you need to ask yourself about what to sell, we're going to take a look at who does what. So we're going to get to the actual process of fulfillment in part 3, but in addition to what should we sell and how much should we charge for it, another question I get asked constantly, and that's a really major pain point, is how are we going to get all this on the website? And so this part, the who does what, is going to cover that. Let's hear from Sam again to set up part 2.
Are you envisioning your e-commerce as like 20 sales a week, or do you want $20,000 a week? If you want $20,000 a week, it's another location, and you need to have the infrastructure to run that. If it's just, I want customers to be able to come pop in and see it, then okay. But what is the vision of having an e-commerce site?
Get your ducks in a row by staffing right. Here is who you'll need in order to be successful when you're powering up your curbside pickup program. So the minimum staff that you're going to need for your program are a web strategist or online business strategist to help you plan for smooth sailing, a web manager or e-commerce website manager to make site updates, including little product updates, an inventory manager to ensure that the physical inventory matches what you say is available on the website, and data entry. This is the big one, to help input new products and product descriptions. You'll need someone to handle customer service, including order processing, calling customers about substitutions and answering questions, and people to handle order fulfillment. Those are the people who actually pick the order and get it ready for pickup. And if I can make a suggestion, please don't skip the strategy role. It is, along with all the other planning, what is going to set you up for success here. It is the plan. It's like for these seminars, it probably takes me 15 hours to write out and plan everything, and then recording takes 30 minutes. So that's how web strategy works. They'll help you. I do have in the handout a bunch of job descriptions to help you hire people. And the other thing that I wanted to say about all this is that you don't have to hire a separate staff person for each of these roles. You just need to make sure that each of these roles is handled. So you can combine roles with whatever makes sense for you and your company. All right, so let's go through some of the individual roles, starting with the big one, data entry. And this person's main job is literally getting product descriptions on the website, including the photos. Ideally, they'll be kind of an assembly line, plug and chug type of worker, that they're not the ones writing the descriptions, and we'll talk about that in a minute. If there's a POS integration running, the data entry or web management person might be in charge of making items available and unavailable on the online store. A lot of stores, if they have POS integration, there's a checkbox you can check to say do not show on website. And the reason why you might not want to sell everything you offer online is that it takes quite a bit of work to make a product shoppable with good pictures and descriptions and everything. So if you only have 2 of something, you might not want to put it online unless it's a big fat margin item where you're going to make like, I don't know, $400 profit. So the data entry role, the plug and chug, getting stuff on the website, can be filled by someone in-house or an external contractor, depending on whether they're also responsible for other aspects of managing the e-com process. I really highly recommend getting an external person to do like bulk projects, and that's because they're much more efficient, and you can hire people who are specifically good and efficient at the data entry for the website part. So my recommendation is if you have less than 20 SKUs or maybe less than 20 SKUs per season, you could manage this internally. If you have more than 20 SKUs per season, like a Christmas type season and maybe fall, maybe spring, maybe summer, like 4 times a year. If you have to put more than 20 different products in 4 times a year, look for an external person. Okay, so there's an extreme, I'll do it all myself attitude in our industry, and I get it because I am 100% guilty of it. Mallory will probably chime in the comments right now and say, yes, she is. The problem is that as we have more and more specialized technology that and services and platforms that we have to use in our daily businesses, this commitment to I'll do it myself leads to inefficiency, increased costs, and even sometimes failures that impact our businesses. So if there's one thing I could encourage every single person in the green industry to do, it would be to hire at least one external data management contractor. Labor is a problem for us, not just for watering plants, but also when it comes to e-commerce. So let's use some resources to help be more efficient in this way. And I'll say a lot of other industries do it, so it can be done. And I am proof of that. My business is. I have learned the magic of hiring remote overseas data entry help. I source most of my data entry help from Upwork. It's an online platform that connects freelancers from around the world with businesses. All of the payments are handled through the platform, and both sides leave feedback for each other. You can also offer a little test project if you want to see if somebody's going to be a good fit before you do a longer term contract. So some of my staff is US based and some of them are from overseas. Those of you who are here last time got to meet Mate, who's one of my remote helpers. So for data entry, the costs for the data entry help are between $4 and $10 an hour. And my data entry people are from the Philippines, and that roughly equates to $9 to $21 an hour in purchasing power in the Philippines. So commensurate with what you'd pay somebody in the US. And my ladies in the Philippines have been with me, some of them for 2.5 years. Faye is going on 2 years with me. She has perfect English. She's very well educated. She's getting her master's degree. And she's had tons of training in using Google Docs, Google Sheets, working in the website backends, Adobe products, and more. I mean, I love her, could not live without her. And I think she's $7 an hour. And the thing is that in the Philippines in particular, there are a lot of women that have these small businesses doing what Faye does, helping with data entry and website configurations and that kind of thing, because they can't have jobs out of the home. I mean, not everyone. It's really looked on as a good, kind of a badge of honor if you have your own business and you're working like that. So, and you get people who know how to use these tech programs, and so you're not banging your head against the wall. So in your handout, there are job descriptions for hiring remote help, and I also have an entire session on how to do this scheduled for Cultivate this year, so make sure you come to that. So beyond who is going to manage the data, where do you get the data, where do you get the product descriptions, the photos, and all of that, that is a huge problem and pain point. And someday I would love to start a business that addresses that, but I am trying to run too many other businesses. So let's talk about what you need, and then we'll talk some about where to get it. So you're going to need pictures, and if at all possible, get a picture of what it will look like when they're buying it. This is sometimes called a shipped as shown picture. And then product descriptions, which at a minimum include the name of the product, a short description of a couple sentences, a longer description, which could include some growing info, color, bloom time, that kind of thing. You'll need to have the price and shipping and handling, and decide if the website price is different and if there's any kind of shipping and handling fee associated with the product. If you have time and your website's set up this way, determining related products or people who bought this might also like that is a good idea. And then the category of the product. Is it an annual, perennial, vegetable, tree, pottery? Sometimes you can add features like color, size, and that people can filter and find what they need. And adding this information can also impact your SEO depending on what your shopping cart is. Okay, so where to find data? First, there's pictures, and these are all picture sources, and I have these linked in the handout. Make sure that you carefully read the license agreements associated with the pictures that you are grabbing. You can't just grab a picture from the internet and use it in your e-com. You could get sued. There are Creative Commons licenses for free pictures. There are paid licenses, things like iStock and Shutterstock. You do want to check the pictures. There's a lot of mislabeled pictures on Shutterstock. There's a lot of good ones. But in particular, if you sell jasmine and you look up jasmine pictures on Shutterstock, you'll find a bunch of like apple tree or mock orange, some rose family plant that's labeled jasmine wrongly. Anyway, it's wrongly a word? I don't think so. Okay, so also with the pictures, you need product descriptions. Now, you don't have to have really extensive product descriptions to start, but you do need those minimum items that I talked about, and those are listed in your handout. There are some different options for getting product descriptions done. One is to write them yourself. That's probably not a good use of your time. The other option is to have one of your staff people write them. Also, potentially not the best use of time. That could be more expensive. You can hire somebody to write them for you. That's what I would recommend, is you try to pull all the information together and give them a template and have them write it for you as kind of like a bulk project, so that you can maybe something done seasonally. GardenCom is a place to find people who can write it. There are other freelancers. Upwork is a place you can find people that can write product descriptions. You can pull from a data feed, and there are a lot of people working on data feeds right now for the horticulture industry. None of them are really like ubiquitous. I would check with the Order Ease, Smart Plant Home, Perfect Plant group of people to see they have they're pulling in a lot of good stuff. Unfortunately, this is still a cost. The good thing is, if you can do it once, then you'll have all this stuff. Plant brands also will sometimes give you information. Just make sure you adhere to the brand guidelines when you use them. And then get somebody to proofread your descriptions before they're uploaded. All right, now we are ready to sell and manage the products that you are selling. So here's Matt from Suburban again talking about how they do that, including my favorite part, reserving inventory. Take it away, Matt.
Most of the stuff isn't moving so quickly that you can't, you got to worry about it selling out on the floor before someone buys it online and competing. So trees and shrubs, no problem. Chemicals, soils, mulches, hardscape materials. That inventory tracking and selling, other than not, making sure we have an accurate count. The issue never is, how do we, avoid people buying something that then gets sold before they get there. I think that's the biggest concern. And that's really your bedding plants, your flowers, your annuals and perennials. So what we did is, we have a large store. We picked a very select number of SKUs, much smaller than we've got, 25 different bird foods, but we only picked 3 different tomatoes. So we really scale, even though we carry 3 dozen, just as many varieties of tomatoes as we do bags of birdseed, because they are perishable, because they're sold, whether it's variety 1 or variety number 32, they all have the same SKU, which is 2-inch vegetable. It's also the same SKU for the 2-inch herbs and so we have to make checkout easy at our stores. So the customer walks up, we put their order together, we box it and sort it. We use generic SKUs for a variety of plants. So, but what we find, of course, with the online shoppers, they want to know, I want to buy a San Marzano tomato. I don't just want you to give me any tomato. I want specifically a celebrity. I want specifically, Italian, sage instead of, Greek or whatever. I mean, they want specific kinds of basil. So we picked our best sellers, and we literally just bring in a very small amount for the peak season, leave them on benches on our loading dock, and it's a restricted area. Customers don't go there. And then when the items come in, we pip them, or we load them up in inventory. And this year, obviously, because people were shopping, I mean, they were gone in 3 days. Like you put 48 4-inch of any variety tomato or any plant, any particular herb, they were gone by Sunday. And because they're set by themselves, those orders are pulled separately. They get set aside, and as the inventory gets purchased online, it gets relieved out of the system. So the next user, it's not available. So, and then you don't have to worry about taking out what's on the bench. So yeah, there's no way to do it. I know people like to think they can, but on bedding plants, fast moving items that can be easily rung up as the wrong thing, a cashier makes a lot of mistakes. They charge the same price for all 6 of these one particular tomato. Well, it's actually 6 different varieties, 1 each. They charge 6 of all the one you're already off. So you'll pull your hair out trying to track the minutia of SKUs. Pick your best sellers, and just acknowledge you're going to hold them back. And the online consumer is not as picky, so you'll sell every single one of those out. And start with baby steps. We picked the best-selling annuals, and we did a dozen. On the herbs, we picked our 20 best-selling herbs and our 20 best-selling veggies, and we put them on there.
Thanks, Matt. So, just because the computer says you have something doesn't mean you have something. I am sure that you have learned that the hard way. So, establish a schedule so that you can reconcile your on-hand inventory with what you're offering on your website. Whether that's daily or weekly task depends on the volume of sales that you're running through. And another trick, if you're not connecting a POS or reserving inventory, is to set the quantity on the website lower than the physical number you have, and then keep it updated according to your regular counting, and that reduces your risk of overselling. Even if you are reserving inventory, it's not a bad idea to tell people that you have fewer than you actually have in case, something dies. Customer service can make or break your e-com business. And so now I want to talk about the customer service role. And I'm going to talk about by letting Matt and Liz talk about it. These are 2 great clips from them about how to keep your customers happy and how to be efficient with communications, including substitutions and frequently asked questions.
There'd be a couple times when we would be off by 1. But as long as that was another thing we learned. The online consumer, and I don't see this changing this year, is very, very easy to please in terms of they're very forgiving. They're happy to have the convenience. Right now they are, at least, because there's not a lot of other options. And if you don't have something by mistake, as long as you let them know quickly, they don't get mad about it. They don't expect compensation for it. So, if they ordered 2 flats of flowers and you only had 1 of them, you call them up and say, I don't have this, but I have another. Do you want it, or do you just want me to refund you? They're happy to make the decision, change it, or get their money back with no ill feelings. But if you wait until the day of them to pick up, and we did have to do that, we did require 48 hours notice up to 48. So we gave ourselves a 2-day lag to fix anything that was a mistake. So people couldn't order in the parking lot and then walk up and say, I want my stuff. It was 24 hour, and then on weekends 48. So they they would have to wait a day to pick up their order. It wasn't like, ordering a smoothie or a sandwich. You had to wait a day for us to pull the order, get it ready, confirm it was there, and do all that. Similar to which if you were to order it from Amazon Prime or something, is kind of what we felt like we were competing with. But yeah, as long as you have somebody calling people, got your order, it's all pulled. We didn't have any, that bird bath you wanted. The one that we said we had left was cracked, or it's actually at our store, in Kansas. So as long as you tell them, they are very, very happy to have people substitute or let them know it's not there.
We've always had an FAQ. I think that most people realize pretty quickly in business with, when you have a website, that you do get some of the same questions over and over and over again, and that it just saves time if you can send them a link or if they can find the information on their own. So, and it's funny to realize how different facets of the business kind of necessitate their own FAQ after a while. So we had, just our, the garden center FAQ, which predated me. And then I developed our wedding FAQ that became very necessary once we saw that we were getting asked the same questions over and over again. And then I think you always discover anytime you're trying to do something new that's web-based, that you will get the same questions again and again, and having a central place to be able to send people links, to be able to answer their questions or give them a place to find the answers to their questions on their own is really invaluable. And our info team, we've recently got them into using templates within Google, because we use the G Suite for all of our back end stuff. And it's so funny. Our Steve, our kind of longtime info person, he's been with us for 17 years, I think, had discovered within the last year, I showed him how to use templates in Google, and he, probably every other week is just like, oh, I made a new template. I love templates. So once you discover, and there's lots of ways, like that's really another form of an FAQ. Those email templates. And I know that's kind of off topic of a specific Curbside FAQ page, but, can kind of consider as you're building your FAQ for Curbside, you're also going to get those same questions via email, and building in that FAQ into email templates that you can just send off when people ask you the same questions over and over again is a huge savings. And And frankly, I think it prevents a lot of burnout, because nobody likes to do the same thing over and over and over again.
Thanks, Matt and Liz. That was some really valuable info about how to provide excellent customer service to your e-commerce customers. Okay, now it's time for our next Q&A, so I will see you live right now. Okay, now we're getting to the point of why you thought you came to this workshop, powering up your curbside pickup process. So the specifics of what you're going to do exactly are going to depend on your system and how you staff, but we're gonna go through kind of a basic overview. And the reason that I waited until last to discuss this part is that all of the planning and staffing that we talked about in parts 1 and 2 are what will allow you to make fulfillment work easily. Without all that planning and infrastructure, it really doesn't matter how you decide you want to fulfill, you won't make it to fulfillment. So first we're going to take a spin around a function flow diagram so you can visualize the process, and then we're going to hear from Liz Lark-Riley from Rockledge Gardens about their fulfillment process, because they have it dialed in. Okay, so we are going to go through this function flow diagram, and this is a diagram that will help us visualize how order flow works. And I made this in this little old program called Sketch. I outsource my graphic design, but I wanted to put something together visual for you guys. So here's how it works. When the order is placed by the customer on the website, the next thing that happens is that staff needs to process the order. So hopefully your shopping cart has set up to send out an automatic order confirmation saying we've received your order. Some shopping carts have e-commerce website platforms have an optional step of like, once you begin processing the order, that you can send an email saying, hey, we're processing your order. We'll let you know when it's done. But part of processing the order is also, in my opinion, printing out copies of the order to track in the office and by the person that is pulling the merchandise. So once the order is beginning to be processed, it can be picked by the staff. If there's any missing merchandise that was ordered, someone's going to need to communicate that with the customer. And that's here. So if the order picker and the customer service are not the same person, then they need to communicate with customer service. They can call the customer. And then once everything's all ship shape and ready for the customer to pick it up, the order can be staged for pickup. And so move to the pickup or delivery area, or pickup or delivery. Move to that area. And then the customer needs to be alerted that the order is ready for pickup, which could be via SMS, text, or an email, like an automatic email that says, hey, your order is ready for pickup. Here you go. And then if it's going to be picked up, the customer would pick it up. Ideally, they would sign one of the receipt copies and that would be returned to the office. But if it's contactless delivery, just the piece of paper, the order that went along with the merchandise could be returned to the office so that it is... everybody knows that the order was finished. So it can be marked in the system. If it's going out for delivery, then the order would be delivered. I think it's good to have the staff take a photo of the dropped off order and note the time on the receipt copy they're going to return to the office. And then lastly, I think it's a nice thing I call it closing the loop within the online store, marked that the order has been fulfilled. Possibly there would be a confirmation order that would go with that, but that's the way this works. Order comes in, processed, customer alerted, picked up. There's an awful lot that goes behind this that makes it work. It seems deceptively simple, but there you go. I hope this helps. And I do have a link for you to download a PDF copy of this. In your handout, there's the tiny version of it, but please clean this up, sorry. In the Google Doc or PDF, there is a link to download this as a PDF so that it is not like ant-sized font. So, hope this helps. Let's listen to Liz talk about how Rockledge has dialed in their curbside pickup process. This will really help you get an idea of how everything flows.
The order comes in via email, and we also have a way of tracking it on the back end of the e-commerce site. But we print 2 copies of the order. One of them goes into a plastic bag and goes to, is put with a plastic bag and goes out to somebody who is out in the yard, who actually pulls the items. Then the puller, the person who's pulled the order, will radio back to Aurelia or Chris, who are the 2 who kind of manage the online orders from the back end, and say whether or not the order was complete, if we had everything, if our inventory was completely accurate, or maybe we don't have something and we need to call the customer. And at that point, the puller would be responsible for seeing if there is a reasonable alternative. And that would be the first priority, is to be able to call them and say, well, we don't have any pink pentas, but we do have lavender. Would that be acceptable to you? And the idea would be do an even trade as much as we can. If we don't have anything comparable, or the customer is not interested in something else, then we have the ability to refund their card through the same method that they paid. And we can do a partial refund, so it's not a huge deal on the transaction end. Once it's complete, we do then have to put it into the point of sale system. Right now, the point of sale system is not a closed loop. So our point of sale system talks to the e-commerce site, but the e-commerce site doesn't talk back to the point of sale system. So once the order is complete, they take that copy that they kept, their second copy, and they will call the customer if the customer needs to be called, but otherwise they're just putting the order into the point of sale system, and then they email them through the point of sale system a copy of their receipt and the guidelines for pickup and the slot number where they can find their items. We also have a really great communication tool for things that, let's say somebody schedules a pickup for, they place their order on a Wednesday, but they don't want to pick up their items until Saturday. Then we do still make sure that those are pulled off the floor and put into holding. We'll hold things for up to a week. And then they had a filing system for, these are all the orders that the customer needs to be contacted or emailed and processed, so that they get that email right before the day they're going to pick it up, saying that their items are ready.
Thanks, Liz. It's so helpful to hear that from someone on the ground. All right, now let's power up your curbside program with some tips from Liz and from Sam at Epicor. And these didn't necessarily fit in a neat category, so I'm just going to run through them here at the end. But this is how to make your curbside even more powerful and meaningful. All right, so first of all, add some marketing. When people pick up their order, make sure that you've added some marketing material with items to keep the conversation going and engage with these customers that you might not really see in the store a lot. Here's what Rockledge is doing.
So we're going to start including our little stickers. These are our little plant fun stickers. So
fun.
This is the shirt that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start putting those in the bag with the receipts. And then we also have them now up at the checkout for now that we're reopened to give to kids and anybody who's
That's
needs
a good fall, like
pick me up.
That's a good, that's good for the curbside pickup power up. Like, how do you get more out of what you're doing, and to have something like that they can put on their car or use or whatever and enjoy it and spread the word. So.
Yeah. And they're kind of, we're establishing a collect them all scenario, because they'll get one sticker, and, if they do multiple orders, I think it could be fun. We're also going to send these with our gift cards that come through that are ordered online and things like that.
All right. You can capture some more sales at pickup if you organize well. Here's Sam talking about how you can capture more sales at the point of pickup.
I'm going to watch what people are buying online, and I'm going to have suggested sales wherever they're coming in to pick up a pair of gloves, the tools, the fertilizer, whatever it is, and try and get an add-on sale that way. If I'm offering curbside pickup, I'm going to have really close to me mulch and dirt and fertilizer. You bought this. Do you need a couple bags of mulch that I can throw in here real quick? And if I have a mobile technology to do that, I'm not really adding more labor if everything is staged properly to get an add-on sale. If we're just throwing stuff in a car and it's leaving, we've satisfied the customer, the experience is good, I've lost additional revenue. That really doesn't add a whole lot more cost for loading up a car. Because if you think, what's the difference in loading 1 bag of mulch and 3 bags of mulch? Not a lot. Person's out there, right? So if I'm going to sell mulch online, do I say, well, 1 bag is $9, 2 bags is $17, or come up with a pricing structure where I will, as you buy more, I will give you a discount because I have no additional labor.
All right, keep things more organized and efficient by creating designated areas for pickup and for staging. Here's Liz Lark-Riley again talking about inventory holding for orders awaiting pickup. You do have a holding area where you are holding plants. Were there challenges like that had been ordered? Were there challenges, or did you find a way to like keep it so that plants would be fine, or was like everything in the shade? It was just for a week. Like, how did you deal with this is a shade plant, this is a sun plant?
Yeah, so that is ongoing, and it's been evolving, and things that we've had to adapt and change and come up with new solutions for. We've always had a holding area because we will have people who schedule a delivery for several days out, or who who reserve something over the phone, or we have landscapers that we have relationships with that are looking for quantities of things. So we've always had that holding area, but then we had to really come up with, okay, now we need to make sure that the irrigation is impeccable, that the areas are divided really well for, this is our big landscape client that we, make special arrangements with. This is, things that are going out for big special orders for delivery. These are things that are for curbside pickup, and really get there.
Okay, this power-up tip is about training your order fulfillment staff in quality control. So when people pick out a plant on their own, they're much more likely to forgive a blemish or a dead stalk or something because they chose it. Or like a less than full pot. But when they order from you and they come to pick it up, they expect it to be pretty perfect. So make sure that you spend some time training your staff to choose the best looking plants for the curbside orders, because that will keep your customer satisfaction high and encourage those customers to come back. Okay, it's time for breakouts. We're going to be asking you a couple of questions. One is, what are you most excited to implement from today? And then the other is, what questions do you have that we can continue answering during our Q&A? And so there will be a garden of Mallory or I will be in some of the meeting rooms, and American Hort staff will be in the others, and we'll chit chat a little bit, and then we will come back here for a last little bit of Q&A.